This is Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related, and today we're here to give you a first look at Wave Break. This first on Stadia title is coming to you by the developers over at Funktronic Labs. The game is coming in priced at $29.99, and for those of you wondering if you still have that $10 coupon, it can be applied to this game. Either way, before I begin, I just want to give you a heads up that I had originally planned for this to be a review of the game, but have decided to give you my first impressions instead. The reason for this is because I want to try out the multiplayer component of the game, as it seems like a pretty big part of it. So much so that I didn't feel it was right for me to score it at this point in time, but now that that's out of the way, let's get right into this. Wave Break is very much so a skateboarding game. It's the perfect love child between Tony Hawk's Pro Skater and Wave Race 64. To top it off, add a little bit of Miami Vice with all the guns included, and you know what you've just signed up for. Or do you? That sounds like a crazy mixed bag of ideas, but I'm happy to report that the gameplay is fun. The theming and art style is charming, and it all blends together really well, and don't even get me started on that amazing soundtrack. If you happen to be a fan of that synth retro wave sound, you're absolutely gonna love it. But there's a lot more to this game than just skateboarding around and performing tricks. In fact, I was a bit surprised at just how much depth there was. But before we get into that, let's quickly discuss and talk about the campaign itself. If you've ever played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, well, let me tell you, this is gonna be a blast from the past for you. The campaign contains a total of 4 different stages, and each one has to be beaten before you can move on to the next. And if you're wondering how to actually beat these stages, well, you're gonna have a list of objectives that you need to get done within an allotted time frame. This will include things like getting a certain amount of score for your run, as well as collecting the BREAK letters. And yes, that's very much so a reference to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater SKATE. Honestly speaking, this really is a love letter to the franchise in a lot of ways. But it's definitely not a direct copy. There are certain missions in every stage that will actually have a storyline and have you performing very unique tasks. And speaking of the story, it actually caught me off guard quite a bit. It's not what I expected at all. It is lighthearted, but also very sarcastic. Some of these missions will be where the other gameplay elements get introduced as well. For example, some may have you shooting at other boats that are trying to attack you, or trying to clear out a wave of enemies. And while yeah, you can focus on just getting them taken care of, there are definitely ways to make it look flashy. The game does offer a slowdown mechanic for you to take your shots if you'd like, but most of the time you can just rely on the auto aim and it'll take care of them for you. This certainly adds a bit of variety to the campaign, but honestly speaking, I think at the end of the day, the main focus is on performing tricks, and I have to say that's not a bad thing, cause it's fun. That being said, I don't think the campaign is perfect. In fact, I think there's some glaring issues that need to be addressed. My main complaint being the amount of allotted time they give you to actually complete your objectives. They give you 2 minutes. This is very similar to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and I can get why they did that, but these maps are much bigger and there's much more to them. These stages can take quite some time to navigate to go where you need to go to actually complete an objective, and the multi-layer aspect is far more advanced than anything of back in the day. I often found myself being frustrated at how many times I had to face a loading screen because of this. And for those wondering, yes, an objective gets completed, then you don't have to do it again in the next run, but it just still felt like a hassle. That's not to say that they haven't thought of this, because clearly they did. When you start a mission, you can quickly retry that mission and begin right off with it being accepted. But I think more than that needs to get done in this situation. I would love to see a couple more minutes added to that timer. And while it could be debated that it might make the game too easy, I don't think that's what people are in this game for. Ultimately, what I had most fun with was actually playing the free play mode and just skateboarding around while performing tricks and trying different things. In my opinion, experimenting and mixing and matching tricks is the funnest part. And while putting a time limit on the campaign that matches that of Tony Hawk Pro Skater definitely brought me back, some things are meant to change. I honestly believe it would be more fun that way, but that's just my personal opinion on it. Now there's one more thing I need to bring up when talking about the campaign, and you may have noticed that there were dollar figures assigned to each objective. Well, that's because you can actually upgrade character stats by heading to the gym and putting them into stat bonuses. Aside from that, you can also customize the character and the boat as well. This adds a good amount of replayability and depth to the game. I should also point out the fact that you can play time attack as well as deathmatch against CPUs, but I found them a bit too easy. I found those game modes extremely fun, and it's part of the reason why I'm holding off from scoring the game, because I did enjoy that section, but I want to see how it plays in multiplayer. I have a feeling adding real people to the mix is definitely going to make it much more exciting. Now this should give you a good overall idea of what this game is, but there is one more negative I do need to point out. Right now, I think what the game needs most is more stages. While I do think that the 4 stages included are great, they look different, play different, and are designed well, there definitely needs to be more. The good news is that the game is still going to get updated. They've already discussed a new turf war mode that's in the works, and that's great, but I personally hope they plan on adding new levels. By the way, I should also mention that the game does support split screen play. Now that pretty much summarizes what the game is, as well as my thoughts on the game and what can improve. The last thing there is to say is, who is this game for? Well, if you find yourself being a fan of the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series or skating games in general, definitely check this out. I think you're gonna absolutely have a great time with the game and experimenting with all the different combos. That is, if you can look past the fact that there's only 4 stages. It's easy to see that the developers put a lot of thought and love into this game and the skating mechanics, and it's enjoyable overall. But if you're the type of player who doesn't like playing on the same level more than a few times, or just doing the same stuff over and over again to perfect the craft, you're probably gonna want to avoid this game. Or at the very least, wait till it's on sale. As I stated before, the gameplay is very fun. I think there's a solid foundation here, but I'm not sure it's worth the asking price if you're expecting a lot of content. That covers everything I have to say about Wavebreak. If you have any questions about the game, feel free to leave them in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Now, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful at all, be sure to hit that like button, as it really does help the channel out, and if you're wanting more content like this, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell as well. Today's end of video message is going to be a simple survey. How many of you out there plan on picking up Wavebreak, or have you already? I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on the game. If you've already played it, let me know in the comments section below. As always, thank you for watching. This has been Generation Stadia, giving you that daily dose of everything and anything Stadia related. The Gen S community is over 4,400 strong and growing by the day, and until next time, I'll catch you in the clouds.